Vikings versus Panthers. GMG In The Raw live.
There we go. There we go. We're ready. Hey, like the first week of the season, we're a little rusty. Hey, everybody. It's Good Morning Gjallarhorn in the Raw. And you know what? It's week 1. And the Vikings went out there and absolutely disappointed most absolutely every fan in Minnesota. First off, let's start. Yes, you had no preseason. Yes, you had no offseason. But there are 16 teams that come in and win this weekend. You are not one of them. Matt LaFleur is now 3-0 against Mike Zimmer. You had all season or off season long to figure out what in the world was going on, Mike, and you didn't figure it out. Now, if you sit there and whine that you have young players on the defense, they didn't know what they were doing, the tackling was bad, you couldn't stop the run except for up the middle, you couldn't stop it when it was going to the outside, you flip-flopped defensive ends and put Unique Ngakoue on the left side instead of keeping him on the right. Instead of switching 2 players, you should have just switched 1 and put Odinbo on the left. But no, that didn't work. I think we had 1 or 2 pressures the entire game. Are you kidding me? Really? The Mike Zimmer vaunted defense? Do you know that this was the most points scored on the Mike Zimmer defense since he came to Minnesota? Did you know that, Flip?
Oh, man, I did not know that, Dave, but I'm not surprised. That was just absolutely pathetic on the defensive side of the ball. They started okay, and then the offense just didn't help them out at all. And it was all downhill from there once we got near halftime. So just a pathetic performance by the Minnesota Vikings. I try to stay positive. I think the best takeaways I can take from this game is we didn't look as bad as the Browns or the Lions.
But sorry, I haven't seen those 2 games yet, so I can't comment.
Yeah, that's not saying much. Got to be better, got to get better quickly. A lot of the issues we saw in this game were our biggest concerns going into this game. And that's really what worries me. It wasn't some new issue that we can clean up. It's the things that we know are wrong about this team. And the Packers and Matt LaFleur showed that other teams, our opponents, are going to expose our weaknesses all season long. So it's on the coaches. You've got to be better.
Well, for everybody who doesn't know, Flip is the great Flipmazzi, and he will be joining us this season to break down Minnesota Vikings football on GMG Live after the game. Flip is normally Mr. Positivity. But these last 2 years have been rough on him. And he's sort of melded into us old-timers' role of being a little bit pessimistic. But speaking of pessimism, Drew, how are you doing this afternoon?
What the hell kind of an intro is that? Speaking of pessimism. Christ, say it really.
Oh, we're having feed issues, it looks like. Hopefully not.
And we have, these are kind of weird shows because they happen right after the game, so they get a little emotional, but I'm glad you're here. And,
I'm happy to be here. I'm not happy about the result, but I will say I know you all had the great Ted Glover on this show last season. I have no chance of filling his shoes. I've been trying to dream up. I'm a little nervous right now, to be honest. I was like, how am I going to replace Ted Glover?
The guy was a helicopter pilot, and he flew Gloria Estefan around. How can any of us fill those shoes? Honestly,
we can't. So,
we can't.
And then y'all go out and you get Ted to do a pregame show. Like, throw me a bone here, y'all. Everybody's asking where Ted is right now. Now I gotta step into his shoes. I feel like if Justin Jefferson
you got introduced as the great Flipmazzi. I got the pessimistic guy that's going to ruin your life, Drew Bunting. How do we go with that? Let's go to Mr. Negative, pessimistic. Drew, how you doing? I have a question real quick, and I'll throw it right back to you guys rather than going on because we all know what we watched. How can one team, Flip, look so prepared and so ready, and another team not?
Yeah, I think what we need to do here is look at the first half. A lot of people see the first half. They say, okay, maybe we can do a comeback in the second half. That never happens in the NFL. That happens only 20% of the time. So we need to be more critical about how the Vikings looked when they started the game. Like you said, it was flat. And
I'm more talking about put the offenses up next to each other. One is just clicking, executing, bam, 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 running their great play selection, and the other one is just lost and sluggish, and it's weird.
I didn't see that in the first half, Drew, to be honest. Green Bay was clicking, but our defense held them to field goals on their first two long drives. Our offense, once they got the ball, they marched straight down the field and scored to actually take the lead. We were up 7-3 in this game, but as that first half went on, you saw the safety was a big issue. And then the interception that Kirk Cousins throws before halftime is unacceptable. And people are going to gloss over that. People are going to look at Kirk's stats, say he had a good game. No, you can't throw that ball with 40 seconds left in the second half, and your team needs to strike back to try to gain back, maybe tie the game before halftime, and you just give the Packers 7 more points right before we go into the locker rooms. That's unacceptable from Kirk Cousins. We're paying that guy $20 million this year. There's only 6 quarterbacks making more. Kirk Cousins has to get better. It starts with him if you want to criticize the offense.
And I agree, but they had...
Now we froze up again on the Skype. But I'm not frozen, so on the Kirk Cousins issue... On the Kirk Cousins issue, there was one thing he did well. Early in the game, he actually scrambled. And Ted and I were talking, and about gave us a heart attack, right? And he did it, I think, one more time or 2 more times. He was more aggressive in the game. I love seeing that. But
Kirk Cousins running for his life. Something's wrong.
That's pass protection. But at least he ran. Last year, he wouldn't have. He would have eaten the sack. Now, that pass to Thielen, where Thielen broke out and he threw the ball inside and gifted it to the Packers. Yes. I was going off on that one. No, you can't.
Yeah, you can't make that mistake. And here's the thing with Kirk is we criticize his mental issues. Well, if you look at that throw, that was actually just pure accuracy. He just missed his guy. And that is supposed to be one of Kirk Cousins' best strengths, his best attributes. He's accurate with the football in the intermediate and deep tiers. He makes that mistake. He lacks accuracy. You see what the result is. Where did we see Aaron Rodgers make a mistake like that in the entirety of the game? We didn't see it. And that's the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins.
Everybody on his offense was playing better than ours too. I mean,
I don't think so. They were dropping Green Bay was dropping balls out there.
The execution of the plays, the Vikings.
And there we go, Skype again. Well, the execution of the plays, but the problem with Green Bay is they dropped a lot of passes
before they ran. It was dominating, and I know. Once you get behind the 8 ball like that, you got to kind of... The one thing Cousins doesn't do, I don't think he rallies people really well. Like, all right, they're ahead of us. They're kicking our ass. Let's go kick their ass. I don't think he has a lot of that in him. He kind of goes with how the game's going. If we're kicking ass and we're up 20-0, he's fired up. But
Yeah, and you know what? I have other fingers to point, but you're down 8 points. You've got the ball before halftime. You've got the ball after halftime.
there's no question it was a horrible decision.
I'm okay with that defensive performance down 15-7 going into the halftime. It wasn't great, but it was enough to get the job done. If the offense picks up the slack and does their part, we saw the exact opposite from the offense in that first half.
Well, they were bending and not breaking, the defense, that's for sure. I mean, a team runs 44 plays in the first half. They should have more than
the field.
They should have more than 15 points.
3 offsides penalties at home with nobody in the stands.
Yeah. Don't get me on that
Some of those
crowd noise.
Some of those pass plays from Rodgers were like pitch and catch high school. So simple.
Yeah,
so
because
simple. Some of those
coverage
out patterns, man.
You had coverage by Hill. He's got beat virtually all day. Nobody could tackle. Dantzler had a so-so. I mean, it was a good effort day.
What about
But
Hughes?
he couldn't wrap up.
Chris Cook.
Hughes was catching up and tackling from behind. It more reminded me of Trey Waynes. But nobody was there consistently defending. Now, part of that is
Kendricks. Only guy.
Eric Kendricks, yes, was there. But no pressure on Aaron Rodgers per se, and he had time to pick us all off.
Yeah, you could tell the plan was to, Zimmer told those corners, keep everything in front of you, don't get burned deep, and we'll hope that the pass rush gets there. So, again...
But both of those aspects failed.
Right. So the corners got beat. I would say there were 3 or 4 times that the corners got beat deep, a couple of them on free plays. And worse than the corners was this defensive line. If you had to call out one position group on the defense, it would be the front 4. I mean, the Yannick Ngakoue signing, I tried to tell you, David, August ads are overrated. You can't add a guy that late and expect it all to be there in week 1.
Nor can you add him and ask him to switch sides in less than a week.
Cannot do. I think it's fair to criticize the defensive line coach, Andre Patterson. You just got a big promotion over the offseason, and your DL came out and you had input as to which personnel you had there. Not good enough. And a lot of those pass rushing downs, those third downs, were actually, they had Jalen Holmes come on the field. They had Eddie Yarborough come on the field.
Eddie Yarborough!
Those guys were heaping, steaming piles of trash. They didn't get home at all. Rodgers had all day to throw.
Yeah.
Well, as Ben Crisholt says, and we've been getting people talking to us this whole time, it looked like a preseason game. The only problem with that, Ben, is it wasn't preseason. It was a regular season game. And the Vikings needed to pull it off.
Oh, say that again, David?
Vikings what?
Ben Crisholt remarked that it's like a preseason game. And I said, Yes, it looked like that from the Vikings standpoint. But the problem is it wasn't a preseason game. It was a regular season game that counts against your arch and most evil rival, and you blow it.
The Vikings' best defender was probably Valdez Scantling when he dropped 2 passes. That's probably...
that was written.
That's a great comment from Ben. So I have a question for you, Dave, and for you, Drew.
Yes.
Based on what you saw today, because we looked like a preseason atmosphere, nobody in the stands, not a lot of crowd noise, and the team just came flat.
Hold on. Hold this rant just a second. I want to get on the crowd noise. The crowd
No.
No.
Fuck that. Crowd noise had nothing to do with that shit show.
I'm not talking about how the Vikings played. I'm talking about whoever ran that crowd noise sucks balls, because all it was white noise, and you actually had booing at one part. but there was no up or down when the offense or defense came on. No, nothing. You suck.
Because it was crowd noise and sucked balls for a fucking team who sucked balls. So it's all equal across the board because the Vikings haven't looked this shitty in 8 years. I mean,
yeah, I mean, we had, like I said, we had defensive offsides. We had offensive false starts. We're at home where there wouldn't be any crowd noise anyways. We're still hopping off.
What's the question you had? I want to hear your question.
The question is, based on how we look today, based on how our Minnesota Vikings looked, how many games is this going to take till we work into mid-season form, till we can start putting our best effort, our best foot forward? Is that happening next week? Is that going to take a month? What do y'all think?
Jeez, dude, that's a tough question. I can't very well say it's going to happen next week or the week after. I'm probably leaning more towards 4 to 6 weeks, Flip, to be honest with you. What I saw there, that's some... I mean, I thought the biggest problem going into the season would be not so much the young talent, because they're talented.
And there goes Skype again. They're talented, but get them together.
Maybe what you just mentioned about the D-line, maybe the talent isn't there. I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm going to say a month just to cover my ass.
Dave, what do you think?
I know we're probably getting our tits licked in Indy next week. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Look what their offensive line could do to our D-line. That could be a long-ass day, too.
All right. Don't get me started on the O-line. But on the good side, the offense did score 34 points. And usually when we score 34 points, we win. The problem is the defense gave up 43. And that's the bigger issue. Now, the points the Vikings scored on offense, a lot of it seemed to be padding stats at the end. But at least that was the right thought process. Too bad it couldn't have started in, late in the first quarter. But how long do I think it comes around until they're decent? When does Daniil Hunter get off IR?
He's on 2 more games. He's on IR, but we don't know. It might be longer with that neck injury.
One of our commenters, Anthony Gruid. Apparently Yannick was playing on a bum ankle today as well. I don't know where he got that, but
okay, so he's a bigger Xavier Rhodes at this point,
It's just
nothing then gets injured.
The whole defensive plan, which we know Zimmer calls the defensive plays, and we know we have 2 defensive coordinators, seem to be either wrong or not executed the way it was supposed to. Now, that goes to whoever's running the defense. And I'll take it from Zimmer to Patterson to Zimmer to all of them, to those that, weren't making the plays.
That was a defense who didn't want to get beat with big plays and was very tentative. That was a tentative defense, what I saw.
It was the game plan was pure execution is why it failed. We planned to have, give them the short passes, but generate pressure in order to hassle Rodgers. So instead of what we saw Rodgers get more and more comfortable throughout that game. The game plan was for the opposite of that to happen, is say, I don't have time to go deep. I don't have a free play. I'm going to check it down here. And as Rodgers got more and more comfortable, that's when you saw him stop with the checkdowns, stop with the 7-yard outs, and start going deep. So we need to at least threaten defensive line pressure, or this is going to be a bad 3 weeks for us, y'all.
It certainly seems like LaFleur knows how to exploit our weaknesses a lot better than Zimmer knows how to exploit theirs.
Obviously.
Because but he shouldn't. He's just a brand new coach. I mean, he looks like he's been playing against the Vikings for 20 years. I mean,
yeah, I went into this game hopeful, and that's something I do. I'll tell y'all is I watch a win from a previous Vikings season before every game. And I just want to remind everyone that when we lost last year against the Green Bay Packers at home, that was a game where we didn't have Dalvin Cook, so we couldn't run the ball. And that was a game where Eric Kendricks, not many people remember this, but Eric Kendricks got injured near half. He didn't play the entire second half of that 23-10 loss against the Packers. So I was hoping, let's get Dalvin Cook established. Let's get Eric Kendricks. Kendricks was a machine today, tackling.
Very much so.
But we couldn't get Dalvin, not just in the run game, but even on some early screen passes. We didn't get a lot from him either. So who was our best offensive player today?
Crickets.
No, I was going to say Dalvin. Dalvin had what? 2 touchdowns?
2 touchdowns, 40 yards. 40,
yeah, it wasn't. I mean, Adam Thielen had
That's a really good question.
a handful of catches.
I can't pick one.
There was the scramble by Cousins. Not that everything else was good. BC had a catch or 2. Jefferson had 2 catches.
Thielen?
Irv had 1.
It's just every drive, whether we were on offense or on defense, every drive, at the start of the drive, if you said, this is a big drive, whether it's hold them here, keep it a 1-score game, or score here, make it a 1-score game, the Vikings failed. You look at the drive coming out of halftime. This is your first drive of the second half. You have a chance to cut the lead from 12 to 5, and you do nothing. You barely get across midfield. It's in those moments, that's where our offense just disappears. They're great when they're down by 2 or 3 scores and they can just, go out there with no consequences. But when the game gets tight, how's the saying go? When the going gets tough, I don't know what the Vikings do, but they're not.
If you flip it to the other side of the ball, what's equally as aggravating or irritating for me is when it's 3rd and 6, when Packers have the ball 3rd and 6, and you really need to stop them because they've have these long drives. It's the time to get off the field, and then they snap it, and it's like an 8-yard out to Devontae Adams. The corner's not even in the picture. It's pitch and catch. The camera goes back to Rodgers, and he's laughing. He's laughing about it. When it's that easy, it makes you feel like you can't stop him if it's that easy. That's what I take from it. Like, when you need that one, you got to have moments in a game where you have that 1, 2, 3 big plays. You got to have them. And it just seems like it was too easy for them today. It was too easy all the way across the board. The Vikings were vanilla. I didn't see a lot of clever playmaking on either side of the ball. I mean, most of the stuff was really straightforward. It was like a preseason game. But I did see one team that seemed like they had more intensity and they were more prepared than we were. That's what I saw. I don't think they have that much more talent than we do in the long run. Do they?
Yeah, it's hard for me to say just because, there was a time in this game where our defense was holding them. They were tightening it up along the goal line, even though they were allowing that yardage. And it felt like the game was on a knife's edge at that point. Like this really was 2 even teams. And instead of the Vikings improving as the game went on, they got worse as the game went on. I love that Holton Hill play against the Adams at the goal line. I love some of the tackles we made there. We got a couple big 4th down stops. But again, any like serious heavyweight punch back, we just never delivered it to the Packers. And so they're happy, laughing. They feel untested.
Not that I'm making excuses for the defense, but if you're going to allow them to have 44 offensive plays in the first half, your defense is going to be gassed and worked by the 4th quarter. It is.
Yeah, I agree. And I tend to be a defensive apologist. My issues with the defense is we only played with the back 7. We didn't have a front 4 in this game, and the corners have to tackle a little bit better. I think those things are things that we can clean up a little bit. I have a lot more questions on the offense because I don't know whether Irv Smith is going to step up or whether Justin.
Did he even play?
Step up.
He had 1 catch.
Why don't we use that guy more? What is the problem?
Well, this is my question. Watching
Come on,
today,
man.
Kirk Cousins seemed to focus on Adam Thielen.
Yep.
But other than a few passes elsewhere, a couple to BC, one to Irv, check down to Cook type stuff, you didn't see much. Is Kirk going through his reads like normal? Or is he just focusing on Adam Thielen because that's who he trusts?
I'm fine with him focusing on Adam Thielen. BC and Jefferson will earn it when they're ready. Same with Irv Smith Jr. They weren't ready today. I actually think on offense, the offensive line held up okay. They weren't great.
It was okay. On some of the Kirk had time on some plays and others not.
But I'm willing to give Irv and Justin Jefferson time to grow into the offense. I need to see it right away from Kirk, from Adam Thielen, from Dalvin Cook. I'd grade them. I'd give them a C+ on this game. Not enough for a defense that has progressed a little bit.
Irv Smith needs to get more involved and get in. You know what? He's a second-round pick. He had all last year to develop. He needs to get in there. You got to put these guys in here at some point. You can't just sit on him all this time. He's good enough to get him in there, get him the football.
I remember seeing a couple plays where he was open Jefferson. And Kirk threw elsewhere.
I don't know what the read procedure is with Cousins. I know I miss Diggs. I miss Diggs on his little bubble hitches and shit. But I don't want people to start tearing me up. Yeah, Diggs is gone, Drew. Move on. Well, you know what? It's a big hole not for him and Hunter. They're pretty big misses for today.
Oh, yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Everson Griffin and
I just, I see the offense doesn't. I don't see any plays that really stretch the field or anything that's really like aggressive. I see a really, like I said earlier, I just see really going through the motions and hoping we get 6 yards on this run, and then we'll wait till 3rd and 4, and then, I see Green Bay running the play where the guy in motion gets flipped the ball and he runs around the corner. I don't see any of that kind of stuff from the Vikings. Nothing about that.
We had to attack their linebackers. We had to attack the middle of the field. That's where the Green Bay Packers' weakness was. To me, that's a game where B.C. Johnson and Irv Smith Jr. just flourish.
Right? Yeah.
And we didn't go really over the middle of the field at all. There was that one long reception to Kyle Rudolph over the middle that set up the field goal before halftime. But outside of that, it's like we should have been getting Dalvin Cook on Oren Burks 5 times a quarter, like as much as we could.
It's all a matchup game, right?
Yeah, exploit your matchups, attack. And, instead you're like, okay, well, let's try a 7-step drop on our own 2-yard line. So,
sometimes I watch Cousins and it's really, sometimes I have to rewind it and go, sometimes he looks like he's played football for like a week. It's concerning. I even said it on the thread going, what in the hell could he be thinking about on that play? It's really weird. It's strange because, we all know about the inconsistency and you got to be consistent as a quarterback, but he just does some things where I just stop and go, what in the hell was that? Like he looks like he's not sure of himself a lot of times. And if he's not sure of himself, nobody's going to be sure of him.
No quarterback instills more fear in his own fans than Kirk Cousins when he's scrambling. It is terrifying to see that guy tuck and run, man.
But he did it today.
But he did it successfully.
But to me, it was kind of like watching Paul Krause making 18 tackles. If Paul Krause is making 18 tackles, the day is not going well. If Kirk Cousins is having to run for first downs, it's not going well in the long run. And that's kind of how I felt about it. I have faith in the guy when things are rolling along, but I don't know. Maybe it's just I want too much. I want creativity. I want intensity. That's what I want for my football. I don't want just base everything.
Is Kubiak's play calling stale?
He's always a conservative coach.
It wasn't great this game. I like how they mixed both Dalvin Cook and Alex Madison into the backfield. I thought his play calling was good given the limited chances that he got because of execution. If I had to criticize one play call, you know me, I love to point fingers. That second down call when we're backed up on our own goal line, that's an unacceptable play call to run a full play action 7-yard drop when we're that far back. And that sack is, you can't blame that on anybody but the play caller. The guy came unblocked. It was a long run fake. Kirk basically got done with the run fake before he got hit. He didn't fumble. So take a quick 3-yard drop, or actually run the ball there, but don't just set your immobile quarterback up for failure 8 yards in his own damn end zone.
Well, I have no problem with the play action, but the whole idea that he play action and then drop back versus rolled out one of the two directions, that's where the issue was. And it was just, it was bad.
As much as when I just said it amazes me what Kirk Cousins is thinking about on some plays, I have a hard time pointing the finger at that guy for this game. I mean, you got a defense who can't get off the field. Every fucking drive, it's 13 plays. I mean, come on, dude. The corner blitz, the safety blitz they did on Cousins to cause the safety, I'd like to see us try that a couple times. I mean,
right.
Even after the safety, I had no problems with Kirk Cousins. Look at what the man did in the first half. The entire body of work in the first 2 quarters. Tell me that you're happy with that performance, because I think
2 for 2 for a yard or something. I mean,
that was first quarter, but I think he was like 5 for 7 with an interception.
He was no threat in the first half. He wasn't part of the game. And like I said, I've been on teams when things are going that bad. He's got to be the guy to step up and get people fired up.
Yeah,
he doesn't seem to. I think he thinks that's not his responsibility, but. You could point the failure finger at everybody in this game, starting from Zimmer all the way down. That staff got totally outcoached today. I mean, badly outcoached, game plan wise. And the Vikings just they stepped on the field and they looked like they just got ran off the field and had no answer. It's kind of like a guy hitting you with flurries and you're in the corner going, "Holy shit, this guy's kicking my ass."
But Drew,
what?
I agree with you.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Dave agrees with me. I thought you were going to say it was Rick Spielman's fault.
No, this is a coaching loss. This is top to bottom. I am calling out Kirk just because I think he's equally responsible.
He's got to play better. He's got to fucking play better.
He's got to play better.
Everybody.
But
Attack! Don't sit there and just...
He's got to play better. Harrison Smith has got to play better. Mike Zimmer's got to coach better. Every single person in the Vikings organizations has to look in the mirror and say, how can I get better?
You know what, Flip? It was just blasé. You can't have blasé because teams are ready to fight you and play you. You can't go out there and just stand around. From the coaching staff down, Eric Kendricks is running around making plays. Everybody be like Eric Kendricks.
Yes.
Everybody follow Eric Kendricks' lead. That's how you play. And if somebody beats you on the offensive line and gets a sack on your quarterback, then you pound your chest and go, "Fuck that. I'm not going to let that happen again." And then the next guy gets fired up. And the next guy gets fired up. And the next guy gets fired up. And pretty soon you're all fired up. I just seen a bunch of standing around today like it was a preseason game, and this isn't preseason. We're going to see a lot next week in that Indy game. We're going to see how the Vikings come out after taking this beat down, and we're going to see really early if this team's going to fold up the tent or if they're going to get their shit together from getting punched in the mouth. And I know Zimmer's probably already has a press conference saying we need to play better. I'm sick of hearing that. I don't want to hear that anymore.
And Drew, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm always looking at the first half. I'm always looking at key drives because it comes down to, look, you just got punched. When are you going to punch back? You're down with 40 seconds left in the first half. Are you going to punch back? No, you threw a fucking interception.
That's
You're
right.
down 12 on the first half of the second drive. Are you going to punch back? No, you're going to go 6 and out. You're down 12 in the first drive of the fourth quarter. A key stop here will give you your last possible chance to actually make this a game. Are you going to punch back No, you're just going to let Aaron Rodgers drive down the field and score again. That's where the Vikings have to be better. They have to say, this is a big moment, and I'm a big player. I need to rise to this occasion.
And you know what? On that, let me give Flipmazzi his first arm slap.
And there goes Skype again. Yes.
I couldn't say it any better. We talk a lot about, if you lose a football game in the last seconds on a field goal, well, you played it out. You lose a football game like this, it makes you shake your head going, what in the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm. What is going on? Question of the week.
One play. The guy was a starting left defensive end for all of training camp because Danielle Hunter's out.
You got to look at the next guy. I mean, I use Kendricks as an example. That guy's got to be walking around the locker room thinking to himself, I gave the effort. Where are your guys? When are you guys going to give the effort?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question, and there goes the connection again.
You're the defensive line. Who is in there?
Oh,
Jaleel Johnson and Shamar Stephen? Is that our starters?
I mean, we'll wait for the numbers to come out, but I'm telling you, there was rotation in there. So Shamar Stephen probably started next to Jaleel Johnson, but I saw Armon Watson there.
Right.
I saw Hercules Mataafa in there. I had to have binoculars because they weren't making any plays, so I just had to see what was going on before the snap to see who was actually in there. But they tried.
We're still guesswork of the D-line. We don't know.
Just like hoping we get one of these guys to flash, and none of them did in week one.
Yeah, and I remember seeing Yarborough in there being manhandled. I mean, he got in.
I had to look up. I was like, who is number 52? Because he was just like running behind the receiver or the running back every single play.
You know what? For as many games as Zimmer has played against Rodgers, and I'll give you this, Zimmer usually game plans Rodgers pretty well. That was probably Rodgers' easiest game against Zimmer.
Mm-hmm. Aaron Rodgers' easiest game in his last 3 years.
With that, let's wrap this up. This wonderful week one where the Vikings start 0-1 going down to the hated division rival, the Green Bay Packers. Anyways, any last word as we lose?
You should call Zimmer and tell him to be aware because his number one fan is now questioning him. If Dave Stefano's questioning Zimmer, Zimmer should be nervous at his desk. Because Dave's his number one fan, man. I'm telling you.
Anyways,
call him up, Dave.
Hey, if I had his phone number. Any last words, Flip?
For all these Vikings fans who are sad that we lost Kevin Stefanski, just know the dude scored 6 points today. Okay? I'm fine with Gary Kubiak. He'll figure this out. Skol Vikes.
Drew?
I say we're going to bounce back next week and see what we're made of. We're down, we get up, we dust ourselves off, we take our medicine like a man, and we move on. But there's always a meow meow Viking cow. Flip, great visiting with you, and great that you're on the show. You do a hell of a job.
Hey, great time. I'll see y'all next week. Hopefully it's after a W. Skol Vikes.
Hopefully, Skol Vikings! Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.